1928.
Okay, Grandma, what did you do for fun as a kid?
As a little kid, I had neighbors. I had three girlfriends that lived near me. We played dolls and paper dolls and baseball and Red Rover and all the children's games back then.
Grandpa?
Well, we played children's games, but we went skiing and skating and swimming, and very few neighbors. None, in fact. I didn't have any real close neighbors.
And
Yeah.
skiing was a lot different, wasn't it? I mean,
What's that?
skiing, it was a lot
Oh,
different.
yeah. We didn't know ski toes. No, my father made our skis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had to walk up the hill, sideways with your
Yeah.
skis, and ski down through the woods. We didn't know ski toes or nothing. We used to go tobogganing.
Oh, we did. We had a ski tow up at the Pinnacle, and we did have the rope ski tow. Our skis, we didn't really know what harnesses were. You had a leather hoop, and you put your foot through it and put a can rubber around your boot to keep it on. Oh yeah, we went sliding and skating. We had skating rink down on the tennis court.
Okay, and rules and stuff with your parents, how are they different than now?
I think children back in my day had a lot more respect for their parents and grown-ups.
And discipline.
You didn't do bad things and you weren't naughty because you didn't want your folks to disapprove of you. As far as rules, I don't remember that our folks really ever disciplined us that much.
But
We were just brought up to mind.
you had discipline. Well, you really couldn't get into trouble. It was just you, your brothers and sisters. What kind of trouble could you get into? And we had to work. Split wood and carry in wood and pile wood. And we used to do a little bit of sugaring and boil it out on an old fireplace outdoors, or in the house on the kitchen stove. And we burned slabs. Slabs. We used to come great long truckload of slabs, and we had to buck saw that up with a handsaw, split it and pile it. That's what we used for heat in the winter.
What other kinds of jobs did both of you have to do? I mean, through your teenage years?
I had to do dishes. Of course, I had sisters, but I was the youngest one of seven, see. So I did get to do some housework.
See, by the time I was third grade, I had a paper route in Chester. From third grade till I was a senior in high school, I peddled Springfield reporters all over the town. Every Friday night, and then during the war on Tuesdays and Fridays. I babysat for probably a dozen different people. Every Saturday morning I went over across the street to my aunt's and did housework, churned butter, took the rubbish down to the dump way up back, scrubbed down the cellar stairs, ran the vacuum cleaner all through the house, because she had probably half a dozen roomers that lived there at her place. I mowed lawns for the neighbors.
How much did you get paid?
I got about $1 a week for peddling papers, but that always had to go in the bank, in the savings, in my savings account. Babysitting, I think you got about 25 cents an hour. I think I got a quarter an hour for the housework, and that was 3 hard hours of scrubbing floors and doing housework.
Boy, how lucky she was. I didn't get nothing. I'm not kidding. Nothing. My father was at a monstrous big garden. We had a cow and a calf and pigs and chickens. And we had all that kind of work to do. We delivered milk by the bottles and butter. Mother made butter, did washings. We used to have to deliver the washings. And ironing. We always had to work. She always had a lot of flowers. We always worked in flower gardens. Stuff like that.
See, I really didn't have to do that much work at home. You always had to keep your own room picked up and your clothes picked up. I did the supper dishes. But other than that, you know, I take care of my own things. I didn't really have to do much
We all
work
had
around the
to do
house.
that.
And what did you do for entertainment? What different types of entertainment did you have?
We went, when I was a little kid, we went to the movies every Saturday night in Springfield. That was a big treat. First you went into the drugstore across the street and you could pick out any 5-cent candy bar you wanted. And then we went to the movies, and it was a big treat.
Entertainment?
Well, we entertained ourselves. You really didn't do
Yeah.
that much for entertainment.
There was nothing in this town I lived in. Nope.
We didn't have a movie theater in Chester till I was probably about in the 6th grade. And then, I mean, we were real lucky. As I said before, we worked and babysat and had our own money. I never had an allowance. People didn't give kids an allowance back then.
Oh, God, my
And-
father didn't get one.
We had, my group of kids probably went to the movies 3 times a week. We went on Sunday night, Tuesday night, and Saturday afternoon. 12 cents on Saturday afternoon and a quarter at night. And that's what you did with your babysitting money.
No, we didn't have anything like that. We just played amongst ourselves, children. Period.
What are some of the historical events that you remember?
Well, something that was recorded in history. I guess the only thing I can really think of was the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We didn't really find out about it till about Sunday night, and I guess the only way it affected me right at the minute was I wasn't going to be able to go to Springfield with my brother and go to the movies. He'd promised to take his girlfriend and me over to the movies, and I thought, oh shucks, now we're at war and I can't go to the movies.
Poor kid. You know, you're going to have to help me. What was that radio program that guy came out with? I remember watching that with my father.
Oh, that was in Orson Welles.
Yeah, you've heard about it. Where the whatchamacallits were coming, them little green men and everything, and everybody was scared. You come in the middle of the program. I remember that.
In other words, you thought it was true.
Yeah,
You didn't
because
realize it
we
was-
tuned in them. We had no battery radio. You had to put your ear on it to hear it right now. And I remember when I was a kid, of Dorothy Livermore coming to Perkinsville with a bunch of Marines to help sell bonds and so on. That was a pretty big event to us. Bryant's had some kind of a field day there or something.
Well, that's right, because when I was about I guess if it was during the war, I probably was in junior high, and we had a great big celebration here in Chester when the senior class couldn't go on a class trip, so they gave their money. I don't know if it was for war bonds or what, but they had Eleanor Roosevelt come to town, and while we scrubbed that high school building from cellar to attic and to get ready
That was the old.
for Eleanor
the old
Roosevelt.
high school.
That was a big event in the town of Chester.
Are there any other events that you remember? They don't have to be historical, you know, just...
Yeah, when I was a kid growing up, one of the big things in the wintertime was the winter carnival. They had all kind of ski competition, jumping and whatever. And then they had sled dog races that started, I guess, at the hotel in the middle of town. And I don't know where they went, all around town and back there again. And at night they had a big ball and crowned a princess or queen or whatever she was. And that was a big doing. And then,
I remember when I was young that you mentioned that we came over here and Paul Adams had a Wild West show up on the field. They had bucking broncos and cowboys, and of course to me that was great. I was always been a cowboy fan.
Paul Adams did. He did a lot for the town of Chester. Every 4th of July, they always had big horse shows up at Buttonwood Farm and fireworks and eats concessions, and it was a big time. So I think a lot of times it went on for 2-3 days.
See, I lived in Amston, Vermont, which was Weathersfield. I remember once going to Claremont to the movies on a Saturday night, and Tex Ritter was over there in person. singing on the stage, and that was quite a thing. Because we had a flat tire on the way coming home up in the Gulf, and we had to burn up some of the pictures to see the change to the wheel on the car. Right in the middle of the winter.
You mean burn up your autographed picture?
Yeah, yeah, it was bad.
What was school like?
Really?
Oh, I loved school. I always did. It was down where the Historical Society is now. 2 grades in a room.
Boy, you up to date.
Oh, we had 3 different teachers in those first 6 grades. That was back during the war when everybody, you had scrap metal drives and rubber drives and all kinds of, and that's where they all took it down on the grade school lawn. We had our teeters and our shooty shoots, and then the townspeople talk about, oh, these kids that sit on the stone wall, terrible, terrible. Oh, I remember many a day sitting on those stone walls and eating my fried egg sandwich for lunch and out of my paper bag. No, school was good. You respected your teachers. You learned a lot.
When I went to school, there was 8 grades in one room, 1 teacher. There was probably 25, 30 kids. Cold. We had, our bathrooms were outdoors. You had to go out through the snowbank to go to the bathroom. You take your food in a glass jar or something, put it up on top of the furnace, which was on the main floor. And if you didn't loose the cover, it would blow up and blow all over the school, baked beans or whatever.
Yeah, but wait a minute. You forgot to tell them when you were a kid, you always played hooky.
Oh yeah, I used to go fishing and hunting. Supposedly my brother Frank and I would take a 22 and we'd say, well, we're going hunting after school. But half the time we never showed up. Or we'd take a fish pole and was going fishing, the same thing, we wouldn't show up. We'd go off fishing, and so on. But I made it somehow.
See, on the other hand, I was real proud at the end of the year to get my perfect attendance diploma, so I wouldn't have missed school for anything.
What grades did you go to school up to?
I went through the 6th grade down at the Historical Society, and then we had 7th and 8th grade over here in the high school building, and 4 years of high school.
See, I went to the 6th grade in Amston, and then went to Perkinsville, which we used to walk back and forth, 10 miles on the way. And went to the 7th and 8th grade down there. That was enough school for me. I'd had it.
Yes, but
I went to work in a sawmill.
that's what I was just going to say. In Raymond's day, you went to work.
Left home.
If you had 5 or 6 or 8 kids in your family, you had to go out and go to work early. You couldn't go on to high school.
Of course, that's what I did in the summer. I was found out on farms here and there, up to my uncles, Roy Hughes, and so on. So, 14 years of age, I left home. Went to work for myself. Or support myself. Worked in United Shoe Store in Springfield. Worked in Herb Carey's market, carrying Lovell in Springfield. Started out in a sawmill. I got, I think, $14 a week.
What about driver's licenses? The ages were the same, wasn't
16. I learned
16?
to ride a motorcycle first, and then I went and got my car license.
So it was 18 when I was. Yeah, I graduated from high school when I was 17, and just as soon as I hit 18, I went over and took my driver's test and got my license. We didn't have a driver's ed or anything. Our fathers had to teach us to drive.
I learned to drive my uncle's tractor and truck. That's all I learned. I was probably 12, 13 years old when I started driving.
Do you remember your first car? The first car that you got?
Yeah, a little Ford. My father signed with me. I got a little 1930 32 Ford, I think it was, 31, 32 Ford coupe. Yep. Mechanical brakes. The only way you could stop, run into a tree, which was a big maple tree in our yard over here. Well, you could take your brakes up every day in the week.
See, I didn't. I think my first car that I ever had was probably about in 75 or 76 when my husband bought me one. When I was about 19, I went down to Massachusetts to my aunts with my mother for a week, and I saw the cutest little car down there. This is back when I was working at the survey. I wanted that car so bad, and my folks said no way. But I had the money in the bank. If I took my money out of the bank, I could buy it right out. But my folks said no way, you're not taking your money out of the bank to buy a car. So I never had one until I'd been married a long time.
What did they want you to save that money in the bank for?
I guess a rainy day.
Started raining as soon as we got married.
What about social conditions? Were there any racism or religious?
We had a colored guy in town, and I want to say Johnny Walker, but that was in Chester. His name was Johnny something. I can't think of it, and everybody loved him. He was just like the Johnny Walker in Chester.
Well, I don't think we ever saw really a colored person, only Ernest Johnson that came to sing at the school, and we thought he was the greatest. You know, he was a different color than we were, but that really didn't mean anything to us. We respected him and thought he was the greatest. We couldn't wait each year until he came back to sing, and I think now he's almost 100, and he still, once in a while, comes up to our church to sing.
I call Frankie, he tell me what that
Is-
guy's name
As far as religious differences, while I was a kid growing up, I don't think we ever really knew there was any difference between a Catholic and a Protestant or whatever. We didn't have a Catholic church in town until into my high school days, and you know, we knew people went to other churches, but we had our Bible school in the summertime, and we went, you know, we all went to the same Bible schools. We'd have part of our classes at one church and part at another, so we were comfortable in all the churches.
I went to church a little bit in Perkinsville, but it was so far off. And I did sing in the choir song. I remember wearing a foolish-looking robe. I was a little fella. I didn't think much of that. But no, my folks didn't go to church. We didn't. There was no church in Amston. You had to go clear to Perkinsville, as I said, 10 miles one way when we walked or rode bicycles.
See, by the time we were seniors, we did have a Catholic church here in town, and even back in those days when we had our baccalaureate, we headed around in the different churches, and at that time, in the beginning, they weren't going to let the one Catholic girl in our class come to baccalaureate, but finally they decided that she could come to our congregational church for baccalaureate. I don't remember who the priest was. Yeah.
First one I ever remember, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Nope.